Before we start Q&A, I got something to say. This is for all the coons, spooks, and niggers you're kicking, but you stay the fuck out of our locker room. Fucking coming in and stealing shit, we should fucking lynch you. Fuck all of you. It's a privilege to be in our school. You fuckers going around like you own the place. Fuck all of you. Every single one of you stupid cunts.
Motherfucker, stop! Fucking stop!
Hey man, you fat on that man, yo. Do your thing. He's fat on that man. Hit our too. Like that. Get over there, let him roll. Man, he's fat on that man. I got him. Don't let him run. Bring it down. Hey, bring it down.
Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I don't understand why we pretend like we don't know who these people are by now. And most of it is probably because of fear. It's like no matter what they do to us, we act surprised, we're mad about it for a little while, and then we forgive them and move on. We can't even stay mad long enough to stop watching football. Meanwhile, they're in full-on attack mode, and they know they can harm us without any consequences. And they're going to keep doing it until we're ready to protect each other, especially men protecting women and children. They understand we are at war, but we're willing to sacrifice our children in order to assimilate into their society, just so we don't have to face them. But if we really understood their mindset, we wouldn't even want to be around them. Now, a lot of people know about the Little Rock Nine and what they had to go through just to go to high school. But in New Orleans around the same time, 4 6-year-old black girls integrated an all-white elementary school. Ruby Bridges was the first one to integrate, and she ended up going alone at 6 years old. Now, on the first day of school, she was escorted by 4 U.S. Marshals, and her mom went to school with her. Now, by the time she got to the school, a mob was already there, but she didn't know what was going on. She thought it was Mardi Gras. Now, when this 6-year-old little girl was walking into school, these fully grown adults started yelling racial slurs at her, throwing things at her, making death threats to her. And then after she got into the school, white parents came in and took every single white student out of the school. Most of the white women teachers who we have teaching our children today refused to even teach her. They had to bring in a teacher from Boston, and she was in the class alone by herself for the whole year. And of course her mother couldn't go with her every single day, so after a while she had to go alone. But instead of being scared, at 6 years old, she was praying for the mob who was making death threats against her. The mob was out there every single day she went to school. And every single morning, one white woman would threaten to poison her. Other people would do things like hold up a black baby doll inside of a coffin. Every single day, they spit on her, threw things at her, and threatened to lynch her. But she never showed any fear. And for her own safety, she could only eat lunch that she brought from home. And she couldn't even drink out the water fountain because they thought people had poisoned it. And there's a movie about Ruby Bridges, but 3 other black girls in New Orleans integrated another school at the same time. They became known as the McDonogh 3. Just like Ruby Bridges, they had to be escorted through a white mob, yelling slurs at them and making threats. And white parents pulled their children out of the schools. They had the schools to themselves for a whole year and a half, which did end up being a lot safer because nobody else was in there with them. But every single day, a mob was outside threatening them, spitting on them, calling them niggas. They even pulled the dresses off these 6-year-old girls as they tried to go into school. And one time, one of them got hit with a bat in the stomach. But they don't care if it's a 6-year-old little girl because they understand we are at war. But they can hunt us down and shoot and kill us in our own home. And somehow we still don't understand. In Texas, not long after the brother Joshua Brown was mysteriously murdered after he testified in the Botham Jean case, another sister, Atatiana Jefferson, was shot by Fort Worth police inside of her own home while she was playing video games with her nephew. So let's see how this sister could get shot in her own home by Fort Worth police.
Put your hands up. Show me your hands.
Tonight, we are seeing the face of Atatiana Jefferson, shot and killed in her home by a Fort Worth police officer early this morning. Now, we know a lot of you have questions about this case, and we have been working all day to find out what we can. This story begins on the south side of Fort Worth on East Allen Avenue. That is where our Eric Alvarez is live tonight to walk us through what happened.
Well, friends and family are understandably outraged tonight. They are demanding answers. They are demanding justice for that young woman who was shot and killed here inside her own home by a police officer that was called here to see if she needed help.
Put your hands up. Show me your hands.
A welfare check gone horribly wrong. In this body cam footage released by the Fort Worth Police Department, you do not hear the officer identify himself as he passes a window and steps through a gate into the backyard. He then sees a figure in a window, draws his gun, and fires, less than 3 seconds after demanding to see the person's hands. That person is 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson, who lived in the home with her 8-year-old nephew.
The family is understandably brokenhearted.
Attorney Lee Merritt, who spoke to Jefferson's family, says the pair were playing video games early in the morning.
And they heard someone creeping around outside. She went to investigate at the window. An officer was on the other side who shot at commands, and before she had a moment to respond, he shot her to death.
So how did this happen? Around 2:30 a.m. Saturday, Jefferson's neighbor noticed the door open and the lights on. He called a non-emergency line asking for police to perform a welfare check.
I'm still kind of broken and shocked.
James Smith tells WFAA officers parked around the corner arrived at the house with no lights, no sirens, and did not announce their presence. He called police so they would make sure Jefferson and her nephew were safe. He never expected police to put them in danger.
They tell me I shouldn't feel bad, but I feel bad because had I not called the police department, she would probably still be alive today. So I do feel a little weight on me for that making that call.
Fort Worth police have not released the name of the officer, but describe him as a white man who has been with the department since April of last year. The officer has been placed on administrative leave. The department says all of the evidence will be handed over to the district attorney's office to see if any criminal charges will follow.
And that is exactly what friends, family, and neighbors are calling for tonight. I can tell you throughout the day, dozens of people have stopped by this house offering support to the family of that young woman, which they say had every right to be in her own home and posed no threat to that officer. Live in Fort Worth, I'm Eric Alvarez.
Eric, thank you. Fort Worth Mayor Betsy Price sent out a statement in response to this shooting today, saying writing a statement like this is tragic and something that should never be necessary. A young woman has lost her life, leaving her family in unbelievable grief. All of Fort Worth must surround Atatiana Jefferson's family with prayers, love, and support. Chief Krause and his command staff are acting with immediacy and transparency to conduct a complete and thorough investigation. More details are forthcoming, and the Tarrant County District Attorney Law Enforcement Incident Team Office will ultimately receive this case.
So at about 2 o'clock in the morning, this sister Atatiana Jefferson neighbor called the non-emergency line because he thought his neighbor needed help because he saw the door was open and all the lights on. Now the neighbor, who said he does regret calling because we cannot call these people for help. They are not there to help us. But he said he made it clear that it was a welfare check. And he wanted to make sure the elderly woman next door was okay. But this sister and her nephew was just up playing video games. Now, when the police pulled up, they parked down the street. They didn't turn their lights on. They didn't have any sirens on. And then without announcing themselves, they just start creeping around the property, whispering to each other. Now, these cops, who they refused to release their names, were supposed to be there for a welfare check, but they come with their guns already out. So this sister, hearing somebody creeping around outside, goes to the window to look. Then the cop said he saw a person standing by the window, and then without identifying himself, he just started saying, "Show me your hands," and then shot her at the same time. He shot this sister in her own home in front of an 8-year-old, and he claimed that she was the one that was the threat.
Our top story tonight, a woman is dead after being shot and killed in her own home by a Fort Worth police officer. The shooting happened around 2:30 this morning in the 1200 block of East Allen Avenue, just to the east of 35W. Let's go straight to Nicole Jacobs, who is live at the scene. Nicole, you've been there all day. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you when police first arrived here at the scene, residents tell me that they bypassed the two front doors, walked along the side of the home into the backyard where the shooting happened. Now, one thing community leaders, residents, and Fort Worth police all agree on is that law enforcement responded to this home for a well-being check, but they don't agree on why police shot and killed their neighbor.
She was the cool aunt who stayed up till 2 a.m. playing video games.
And that's what 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson was doing in the overnight hours with her nephew.
The hardest part about this is I spoke with an 8-year-old who explained what it was like inside of the house.
Just before 2:30, James Smith, a neighbor of the East Allen Avenue home, called the non-emergency Fort Worth police number when he saw his neighbor's doors ajar.
And informed them that my neighbor was an elderly, sickly lady, and I was concerned for her health.
But when police arrived, Smith recalls no lights, no sirens, no officers identifying themselves.
3 or 4 tactical officers come from around the corner, seemed like. Walk across the street, go in front of her house, past the front doors, which were open, go down the side of her house to the rear of her house. In less than a minute, I heard a gunshot.
Fort Worth police confirm an officer shot and killed Jefferson. They followed up that information with a 1-minute, 20-second clip of body camera video. It shows officers moving along the side of the home into the backyard with flashlights shining, and then this.
Put your hands up, show me your hands.
We went from a welfare check to a woman being killed by the cops.
Shot through a screened window. Fort Worth officers later releasing images of a firearm inside the home.
There was nothing nefarious or illegal about owning a firearm, and they presented in no way that that firearm was contributory towards the use of deadly force here.
Community leaders and neighbors are rallying around the family, who has declined to speak with the media, leaving it to activists to share their outrage.
This is one I cannot swallow. We are not target practice for nobody.
But our voice is going to be heard this time.
Jefferson was an Xavier University graduate working in medical cells, holding down the fort while her mother was in the hospital. And a neighbor, just trying to be a good neighbor, left feeling like this.
I feel guilty because had I not called the Fort Worth Police Department, my neighbor would still be alive today.
But with the demand for answers, justice, and a call for an independent investigation, many in the community say an indictment is the right call.
That's murder.
Through a statement, Fort Worth police say they are committed to transparency, going on to say, in part, the officers observed a person standing inside the residence near a window. Perceiving a threat, the officer drew his deputy weapon and fired one shot, striking the person inside the residence. Officers entered the residence, locating the individual and a firearm. In the meantime, community activists are calling for a federal independent investigation. They also say they want the interim police chief to step down.
Now, when the police went into the house, they claimed that they found a gun. Now, we're not even going to talk about how guns are legal in Texas, more so than other places, especially when you're inside your house and somebody creeping around outside. But they didn't say she was holding a gun. They didn't say she was near the gun. They didn't even say the gun was in the same room as her. They just had to throw it in there to try to criminalize this sister. They are going to stay on code and protect this cop at the same time and do everything they can to justify this murder. They only released parts of the body camera footage, but they still have the blue wall of silence and they won't say anything.
Have yet to speak to the public in public about this case, and for some it is eerily similar to what happened to Botham Jean, the unarmed man killed by a Dallas officer in his own apartment last year. Kevin Reese has been hearing from neighbors and faith leaders in Fort Worth, and Kevin, that anger seems to keep growing as we continue to learn more.
It certainly is at this point. And ministers and activists here in Fort Worth say they cannot ignore the parallels to the Botham Jean case in Dallas. Only this time, an officer outside this home shooting through a window into the bedroom, killing a woman inside. And for them, the relative silence of the Fort Worth Police Department in these first 20 hours is deafening to them as well.
Call on the police department to be totally transparent, starting immediately, to not hide anything, to not withhold anything from the community of Fort Worth. We're tired of this, and it's going to stop.
But in the first hours after the shooting, neighbors and activists say Fort Worth police is not being transparent, not telling them enough.
If the officer is at fault, then the officer must suffer the consequences.
Consequences a group of pastors told us they see as even worse than the Dallas case of Botham Jean.
This time, the police took it a step further, and she was in her own place and shot and killed her. That is not only unacceptable, that's murder.
Fort Worth police did release a portion of the body camera footage where you see Atatiana Jefferson looking out the window at the officer milliseconds before he fired. And then police released a photo of a gun they found in the house and only mentioned it briefly with no context in their written press release. Didn't mention if she held a gun, didn't mention if the officer thought she had a gun. That angers this community even more.
Don't paint this sister as no villain.
That's right.
If you do that, if you paint this sister as a villain, this city gonna have hell to pay. Don't paint the sister as no villain. They're the ones who murdered. They murdered her, and there's no excuse for it.
But they're trained to get things. They're trained to get things done, not to go out and murder people. I'm not saying they murdered them, but it looked to me like they murdered them when I looked at this around here.
There are calls already for a federal investigation for the Texas governor to come to Fort Worth, for the officer to be fired and prosecuted immediately, and for the Fort Worth Police Department to start providing more answers.
And we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we're going to keep on talking about this until justice happens. We're crying out to the Lord. Our only recourse at this point is for God Almighty to hear our cry and come see about us.
But again, the only information released by the Fort Worth Police Department at this point is that portion of the body camera footage and that written press release. But as you heard the mayor say, that more information is coming, and we, of course, will keep pressing for more. Marie, back to you.
Kevin, thank you. Now, we heard that anger echoed by many of you tonight on our Facebook page who are frustrated about the similarities of this case and the murder of Botham Jean. The trial for that fired Dallas police officer Amber Geiger ended just 10 days ago with a conviction and a 10-year sentence. Geiger was off duty but still in uniform when she killed Jean inside his own apartment. Many in the community questioned how the police department handled that shooting, and the ripple effects of that still have tensions running high.
Now, this cop that they won't name got his paid vacation, and this sister, who was a pre-med graduate from Xavier, in that home taking care of her sick mother, and someone with no record is murdered. And now we gotta wait for justice like we just finished waiting with Botham Jean. But we have to understand the situation that we are in. They are not trying to hide how they feel. They never have tried to hide it. And praying and forgiving and hoping something outside of yourself is gonna come and save you is not gonna happen. We have to realize we are the only ones that can save us. We are all we got. And until we realize that, then the same thing is going to keep happening.
Say it so it's heard. If you use the word nigga, with an A at the end, that means something different. Okay? Let's just get through this. Okay? If you put the A at the end of the word, it means the person who's a non-immigrant. It means gaining or growing, achieving. Okay, so it has a different connotation to it. Now, if you use the R at the end, so I'm going to say it again, so I apologize if you find this offensive, but if they use the word nigger with an R, that is a racial slur. That is a racial slur. Okay, that is referred to people during the slave times. So when people were enslaved, if you were African descent, that's the word they would use to describe you. Okay? It also is a derogatory term.
I guess she's done cursing and screaming. Mm-hmm.
Probably on welfare too.
Not even a little bit. 6 figures a year, man. It's because I'm young and I'm black, and the reason why you would say that.
That's right, because you're black.
Bobby on welfare.
That's right. Always looking to milk the system. And you see me, a white woman, so you think I got money. That's right.
Not even a little bit. Don't even look like you got it. Not even a little bit.
Go back to your welfare, your Section 8 house. See the big truck I have? Look at the piece of shit.
I got a 3,200 square foot home. You mad and nervous. Mad and nervous. Mad and nervous. I understand. I'm sorry. This situation can change real quick. You better stay over there is what I'm going to tell you. You better stay over. You better stay over there is what I'm going to tell you.
Next tonight here, a middle school teacher's racist rant after a fender bender in the school parking lot. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Go back to your welfare.
Tonight, a Pennsylvania middle school teacher has been suspended after her racist rant aimed at an African-American parent dropping off his child in the school's parking lot.
Probably on welfare, too.
Not even a little bit. 6 figures a year, man. It's because I'm young and I'm black, and the reason why you would say that.
That's right, because you're black.
The parent, who does not want to be identified, says it all stemmed from a minor fender bender in the parking lot of Drexel Hill Middle School. In the video, you see the teacher come out from around the truck and yell derogatory statements and a racial slur toward the parent. Tonight, the school district's superintendent speaking out.
This is not the appropriate way to interact or to communicate with anybody in the public.
As for the parent involved, he commends the district for how they're handling everything, adding that one teacher does not represent an entire school.
I'm the only one picking on them. I just walk around the room and I just pick on them. Well, because they're black. And they're the only fucking niggers doing any work. I know. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
No. That's what you've been saying. She's repeating what you're saying. But
I'm sorry.
I know.
You are about to hear the voice of a staff member at Highland Park Middle School. The language is alarming.
Because they're black. And they're the only niggers doing any work.
This cell phone video surfaced on social media Wednesday. Students call the woman talking a social studies teacher.
She's saying that she targets black people and that she's calling out
a word too tough for Ayanna Allison to repeat.
You don't have to say the word. Effing N-words and yeah.
Nevaeh Suttle was another student involved.
It was very shocking to me when the teacher did say it because I've never been called the N-word before.
The first post we saw had more than 25,000 views. Brandy Coleman, Ayanna's mom, shared it. She said Facebook has removed the video.
People were forwarding me a video from Facebook last night, and they said this was an incident from Highland Park. I remember my daughter mentioning what happened to her earlier in the day was recorded. To know that I send her out somewhere that she's supposed to be safe every day and she's not, to know that she's being badgered and being targeted and no one was there to advocate for her, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that I didn't know the magnitude of the situation so that I could intervene before that video.
The district responded Thursday.
I, like many others, am very disturbed by the racist language that was captured on video in one of our schools. No matter the situation, foul and racist language has no place in SPPS. As educators, we have to be held to a higher standard.
Now, many wondering what led to this.
Basically, the video is the boiling point of issues between her and my daughter from October till yesterday. There was one point where she came home and she's like, Mom, she called us a bunch of N's. And I couldn't believe that. Those Negroes, or you Negroes.
Calling her a Negro?
Yes. And so she would come home and she would tell me that, Mom, the teacher's using the N-word. And I'm just like, no, there's no way this is happening. You know, Ayanna, is she using it at you or is she using it for the curriculum? Like, I understand what she was teaching. She's like, Mom, we're beyond that now.
The district says that employee is now on administrative leave.
We will not fall silent in the face of racism in our schools. And we will not make excuses for the harm this causes the children that you place in our care. I apologize to you, and I can assure you that we are taking appropriate actions and conducting a thorough review of this situation.
An Irving ISD middle school teacher is on leave tonight after using inappropriate language during an assembly for a group of 7th graders. It happened Friday at Irving's Lady Bird Johnson Middle School. Fox 4's Sean Rabb takes us inside that assembly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20.
This is the video sent to us by someone inside the character building assembly for 7th graders at Lady Bird Johnson Middle School. The two teachers playing a word association game. On the right, teacher Amber Collis. Listen to this exchange.
Crocs, courage, lions, respect, blood, loyalty, guts, honesty.
You heard right. The second-year teacher, Amber Collis, drops the N-word. Listen again.
Loyalty, guts, honesty.
As the crowd reacts, the teacher playing the word game covers her mouth and walks away. Collis takes the mic from the man in the maroon shirt and tries to quiet the crowd and get their attention. The video stops.
Obviously, the students and staff were surprised and shocked by what they heard. The principal wasn't present in the character building session, but the principal did meet with the staff afterwards, and they talked about their feelings.
In a statement, the district writes, during a 7th grade assembly, a regrettable situation occurred. The school and district officials do not condone or approve of such language. We can reassure our families that we have taken personnel action. Staff members talked with students face-to-face after the incident, and the principal sent a letter with her staff saying she would love for the incident to not have occurred. Now the school, she says, must pull together in love. We made several visits to the teacher's home, hoping to give her the opportunity to explain, but we were not able to reach her today.
A Jackson County school is defending its decision tonight to block an 8-year-old girl from getting her picture taken because of her hair.
The principal says her red extensions violated school policy, but her father tells News 10's Nicole Buckman there's more to it than just her hair.
Yeah, Marion Scott told me she cried and felt singled out when she wasn't allowed to have her school photo taken. Now her father is trying to get answers through his own tears.
It's upsetting, you know.
Marion Scott's baby picture proudly hangs on her parents' wall for all to see. But her 3rd grade picture is missing since she was denied a school picture last week because of the red in her hair.
Her hair is done in a bun. It's braided into a bun. This is uncalled for to pull them to the side. They didn't even call us. Marion didn't leave out the house, go down the street, and go get this done on her own. She's 8 years old. We did this ourselves in our own home. I mean, there's just no way that I felt like this would happen.
The Paragon Charter Academy handbook says that students' hair color must be natural tones to get their picture taken. But what it doesn't state is the course of action if a student shows up with colored hair, leaving Doug confused and frustrated when Marion was told she couldn't get her picture taken but could return to class.
If they at least would have reached out to us and said, hey, come get her, she's got a hair issue, we need you to change it. That's not allowed. I can show you in the handbook. They didn't even go to those extents. They let her stay in school. So if she's not a disruption to the class, then why is she a disruption to the picture?
The school did send out a recorded message Sunday before photos were taken, going over the dress code policy, a message Doug says he never heard or saw.
Had I seen the email, I probably would have told Latoya, hey, don't even do it, even if it's school color. I think it's good that this happened because now people are going to get the opportunity to take a look at what's really going on.
Now, I reached out to the school today, and the principal told me students with a hair color or style violation are given a week or so to get it corrected, which is why Marion remained in class. Her family has no plans to send Marion to a different school, but they would like to see better communication from the Paragon administrators in the future.
All right, Nicole, thank you. Marion did attend school this morning for the first time since that incident with all black hair. Her family plans on getting her picture taken on retake day, which is November 12th.
A student trapped in a bathroom and hit with racial slurs. I'm Jay Crawford. Russ is off.
And I'm Sarah Shookman. No one is denying that that's what happened at Hudson High School on Friday. And today the school system is taking action to make sure it never happens again. Our Romney Smith joins us live in Hudson tonight with the school's plan. Romney, good evening to you.
Good evening. The principal of Hudson High School says racist language will absolutely not be tolerated and that any victims should come forward to let them know. And that's a message that the superintendent fully supports. When the superintendent of Hudson City Schools, Phil Herman, was alerted about a racist incident involving multiple female students, he was upset.
I'm appalled anytime a student doesn't feel safe or supported in school.
He addressed it in a robocall over the weekend, alerting parents to an investigation. Then sent a longer robocall Monday detailing the incident that included racially offensive language, preventing a student from leaving a restroom where the incident occurred, and threatening social media posts. I sat down with him today to ask questions about it.
There are differing levels of culpability on our investigation showed, and there are differing consequences for the students involved.
I also asked about the school's atmosphere.
Do you believe Hudson High School is a welcoming atmosphere for specifically African American students?
I want Hudson High School to be a welcoming atmosphere for all students. I need to engage, and our administration needs to engage further with all of our students, including our African American students, and get that perspective from them.
Moving forward, Mr. Ehrman says the school system will continue diversity training, bring in speakers to talk about race, and initiate small group conversations with every single high school student.
But it's very clear that we need to continue those efforts, expand upon those efforts, and we need to involve students now in more detail with diversity training.
He has two main goals right now: making sure the victim is fully supported and making sure all students learn a lesson.
No, there's no place for that today. There's no place for racially offensive language today. There is no tolerance and there will be consequences, and consequences vary depending on the set of circumstances, but there will be consequences.
Alan, thank you. An outraged parent is demanding action tonight over an offensive comment he says a teacher made to his daughter and other black students. 7 Action News reporter Rudy Harper is live outside Clawson Middle School tonight where this happened. And Rudy, what does his father want?
Well, Dave, this father is extremely upset. He wants that teacher fired here at Clawson Middle School. She's been an educator for nearly 3 decades, and he says she was back inside the classroom on Wednesday after just a slap on the wrist.
Those kids, yeah, I hurt for them.
This father outraged and demanding his daughter's 7th grade science teacher be fired for her offensive remark to students.
This one teacher, Miss Smith, comes up to my daughter's group, who is all black kids, and says, I know it's, customary in your culture to be loud. I'm gonna need you to cut it out.
Winston Hughes says his 12-year-old daughter and classmates were offended.
She was hurt. She didn't say anything in the classroom, but once she got in the car, I could tell just by talking to her, she was like, that wasn't right. Why would she say that to us?
We went to Superintendent Tim Wilson's office for answers. He spotted me, and 15 minutes later, another district employee told me he wasn't available for comment. We had already left him a voicemail. Why do you think the superintendent refused to talk with us about this tonight?
Quite honestly, I think he does not want the attention.
We sent Wilson another email requesting comment and followed up with an email to the school board and trustees. Wilson did not want to go on camera, but called to say the teacher is a veteran of 28 years and was apologetic and remorseful. He also said the teacher has a clean record. Hughes says that teacher called him personally.
She went on to tell me, and I found it comical later, but she went on to tell me that my daughter has a black friend and she brought him to our dinner table. If you have to justify the fact that you have your daughter has a black friend that you allowed at your dinner table, what are you telling me, ma'am?
He just wants his daughter to be the best she can be.
I told her, when you go in that classroom, you shine. Be the child of God and the daughter that I raised you to be.
You still have not told myself or the community, what are you prepared to do?
Right now at 10, a parent is asking tough questions of school administrators over what they're prepared to do to fight a controversial teacher's reinstatement while dealing with other issues involving race. Good evening, I'm Jessica Cartalia. Yuki is off tonight. We're learning that some changes may be in store. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Davis joins us live from Penns Grove to explain. Kim?
Jess, good evening. As it stands right now, the school district cannot legally fire the science teacher, but at a school board meeting tonight, administration says it is doing everything in its power to get him out.
It's toxic, intolerable, and has no place in our district.
This is how the Penns Grove Carneys Point Regional School District described the language that a Penns Grove middle school science teacher is accused of using. Bruce Bassetti remains on administrative leave after allegedly muttering the N-word under his breath while in the classroom on February 27th. Accusations Bassetti denies and a state arbitrator ruled for the 7th grade teacher to keep his job.
The board collectively stands by the position to fight to seek to vacate this appalling and offensive decision.
The school board is now seeking to vacate the arbitration award in Superior Court, something the NAACP president of Salem County was happy to learn.
As long as they continue to do what they're supposed to do, everything's going to be good.
But even with the school board's attempt to appeal the decision, one parent wants more to be done.
It's time for you to get up out that office and start dealing with the issues in the school board. Madam President, you can bang that gavel all you want. I don't care.
Hudson tells us the school board needs to do a better job of vetting teachers. The superintendent says she'll continue to fight for her students.
We do what will be necessary to protect and safeguard our students.
It's unclear how long it will take for the Superior Court to make a decision, but for now, Bassetti will not be teaching in any classroom.
The parents of a young boy in Sanford are furious after an administrator at their son's elementary school called him the N-word. Good evening. I'm Amanda Hill in for Cindy Williams.
I'm Pat Callahan. The 9-year-old boy, who is biracial, told his mother it happened during school, and the district superintendent is confirming that it did. News Center Maine's Shannon Moss spoke with the parents and the superintendent today, and she's here now to tell us more about what happened.
Well, Pat and Amanda, this incident happened on September 27th. Jessica Gowan says she got a call from Catherine Davis, the assistant principal at her son's school, saying her son was having trouble with some students and Davis wanted him to switch to another class. But when Gowan asked her son about what happened at school, she says she was shocked to hear his answer.
It's definitely fun, outgoing, plays football, wrestling.
But lately, Jessica Gowan says her 9-year-old son, Javon, isn't acting like himself.
My son does not feel comfortable at that school.
Ever since Gowan says Javon was called the N-word by the assistant principal at Willard School in Sanford, where Javon is a 4th grader. Gowan and Javon's father, Neil Jarrett, say their son admitted to assistant principal Catherine Davis that he was picking on a classmate, but that he was just joking around. Javon's parents say Davis then asked Javon, "What if I called you the N-word and was just joking around? How would that make you feel?" Javon's parents were shocked.
Now every day he's at school, I'm kind of worried about him.
The school district is confirming what happened.
But it's something at the time that we take seriously. It's something that's not okay.
Superintendent Matt Nelson would not say who was speaking to Javon because it's a personnel matter, but says the person was trying to explain to Javon that words hurt, but in the end, it backfired.
At the end of the day, we screwed up. We made a mistake. I also think the context of that is important. And when you understand the context, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't make it any better. But at the same time, it helps to understand it.
Javon's father says he doesn't understand Davis's intentions. Following the incident, they had a meeting along with Javon. And while Davis did apologize, Javon's dad says she continued using the N-word and upsetting Javon.
Javon, I'm sorry I call you a n***. Like, she just keep using this n*** word, n*** word.
Superintendent Nelson says the district is confident it is addressing this issue internally. But Javon's parents say that's not enough.
I'm disgusted in the school.
Superintendent Nelson says while he can't talk about specifics, he did say in cases as important and serious as this, there is proper discipline, educational component, and also a restorative piece as well. Javon's parents say they feel the school and the district have not done enough. They would like to see Davis in the very least suspended and have asked that she have zero contact with their son.
We have a teacher that just recently was like, "You nigger." He's been moved down to who? Another student. To a student. And the teacher has been demoted, but is still teaching.
Are you Alyssa Ploshnik? What do you have to say about students being called the N-word in your school district? Have you ever referred to a student as the N-word, or has anybody you know referred to a student as the N-word? In Passaic? Has anybody ever used the N-word against a student in your school district?
Good afternoon, Dr. Everett speaking.
Yes, Dr. Everett. How are you doing today?
Okay, and you?
I have a special needs child that goes to school 3 over there, and my son came home one day and told me that he was called the N-word by one of his teachers, and I honestly just need to know what your policy is regarding students being called the N-word or teachers.
No, that's definitely unacceptable. It's definitely unacceptable.
What's your policy regarding teachers that call black kids the word?
It's totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable.
Okay, so are they going to be allowed to keep their job and keep teaching the same children they keep calling niggers?
Well, I'm not going to say that the teacher would be fired immediately, sir. That's not usually how it works. What usually happens is a due process. We'll call the teacher in, have a conference, and then decide on what the disciplinary measures will be. But certainly, if the expectation is that he or she is going to be fired immediately with the contractual and everything stipulations, no, we won't be able to do that.
Okay, so you're saying that if an investigation finds out that he or she said the N-word, that she can still stay on as a teacher? That's possible?
Yes, that's very possible. Yes. We cannot just walk in and fire a tenured teacher.
Sir, has this ever happened before?
Has a teacher ever used unprofessional language before? Yes. Has the teacher ever been fired for that?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Has the teacher been?
Not just specifically unprofessional language.
I don't want to go back and forth with you because
N-word.
you only want to hear one thing, sir.
Used on my child, sir.
You want to hear one thing, that the teacher is going to be fired. Now, the teacher will not be fired. What can happen is your child could be, if you like, your child could be transferred to another class. A tenured teacher, it's going to take months, probably at least a year to remove a tenured teacher, a tenured teacher from the classroom.
Just in case this teacher does have a mindset of retaliation for what my child has reported was said to him, the N-word, nigger, being used towards him, is there no way that you can just quietly move my child before all this begins? Because I don't want him targeted.
Yes, we can remove the child, certainly.
Go ahead and move him out and get him out of the situation quietly. You can protect your teacher all you want. You can, reprimand them, on the side or whatever, but keep it quiet. It doesn't matter, Go ahead and do that. But I want my child out of the situation where there's a teacher calling him the N-word.
Very good. And what's your child's name?
You don't have to reprimand the teacher. Just move my child out of there quietly. Is that okay?
That's not resolved. Okay, that's not resolving the problem, though.
But is that okay, though?
That's okay.
Because I don't want any more trouble for my child. So since that's okay, nobody's gonna know.
We're all on a group text, all the hosts and some of our bosses. And on Sunday, when this story broke, I said to you guys, if they say it was a black guy and street related, I'm calling Sam Cooke conspiracy. If people don't start to go down for this BS, no one is safe. No one. This is so fishy to me, and it's so predictable. I knew this was going to happen. Let's just talk about this. So apparently, it was a drug deal gone wrong. We're talking about marijuana. Marijuana, people, okay? So you're telling me that 3 men from Louisiana, they didn't say what part, but from the border to Dallas is a 3-hour drive. You drove 3 hours to Dallas, where marijuana isn't legal in any capacity, not medicinal, not recreational. But you know where marijuana is legal? Louisiana. Yeah. It's medicinally legal, which means that it would have been far easier for them to go down the street to get the weed than to drive to Dallas to go with a man who is high profile at that to purchase marijuana
12 pounds
in Dallas. Yeah. Oh, and then
they found 12
they
pounds.
said they found 12 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, they found $4,000. Right. Do you know I could pick up the phone right now and probably contact more people who could get access to 12 pounds of marijuana than not? Yeah. Because there's a reason why it's called weed, people, because that's how it grows, like weed. Yes. Marijuana is literally everywhere. So no one is being executed like mafioso style because of marijuana.
And so coincidentally, right after this trial, after the trial, all over the evening news.
And not only that, but marijuana's street value has actually gone down because it is so everywhere. Everybody's growing it. So I think that When the family asked for an independent investigation, that was paramount to this entire situation, because without it, we don't have anyone to trust. It's like my dad told me when I was a little girl, you will have my respect and I will trust and believe you until you give me a reason not to. And that is going to be a long, high mountain to climb to get that back. And that's the problem with the authorities in Dallas right now. We don't believe you because it just doesn't ring true.
Well said.
All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, we have to start looking at it like when they harm one of us, they are harming our family. Because at any time, it could be one of our family members that they do harm. And then when it happens, we just feel helpless, like we can't do anything about it. But that's because we wait for justice from our enemies. But the dominant society goal is to keep us in our place. They understand they can be as violent as they want to be, and we're going to respond with prayer. But if you're praying to the same God that the KKK prays to, whose prayer is that God answering? But somehow, after hundreds of years, we magically expect a different result. But that's called insanity. Back in 1910 in Arkansas, around the time the Jack Johnson race riots broke out throughout the country, which is another story. But the El Dorado race riot of 1910 started because one paper reported a black man named Cheney got into a gunfight with 3 white people, including 1 cop. Now, the gunfight started because they said the black man spoke to white people in a very insolent manner. After some white boy bumped into him, he said, "Don't step on me, white man." And then they got into an argument, and then they got into a fight, which turned into a gunfight. So then after the shooting, white mobs armed themselves and started attacking and shooting and vandalizing black businesses and homes. And some of the black residents armed themselves and shot back, but a lot of them left the city. They said the black man Cheney was found shot and then arrested for starting everything. Of course, because this black man didn't bow down to a white man, and because he had a gun, it was all his fault. And today, it's the same tactics. Nothing has changed. In Wisconsin, a brother Donte Shannon was shot over 10 times by Racine police. Now, let's go back and see how this brother ended up getting shot and killed by the police.
The State Department of Justice on the scene investigating the fatal shooting of a man by Racine police. This happened after the man fled from a traffic stop and pulled out a gun. Brandon Rook talked to family members of the man who was killed as we learn more about what happened. Brandon is live on the scene of the shooting near 14th and Park with the latest. Brandon.
Carol, the man killed last night is 26-year-old Donte Shannon. Now, there's a small memorial here at the scene of the shooting from last night. Family members tell me that the last 24 hours have been very emotional.
We don't know anything right now.
And that leaves the family of 26-year-old Donte Shannon very upset.
Mourning. We're definitely mourning right now to have the loss,
They're hurt.
To have the loss of my cousin Donte.
Shannon's family tells me he's the man who was shot and killed by Racine police yesterday afternoon near 14th and Park. Officers say they attempted a traffic stop when the suspect got out on foot, running away with a gun before the shooting.
Shots fired! We're okay! One down! Stay down! We need rescue. We are okay. Suspect down. Multiple gunshots.
Today, the Department of Justice was out investigating and looking for shell casings and key evidence for their investigation. This not too far away from a memorial for Shannon. Sylvester Johnson, a cousin, says Shannon has been in trouble in the past, but he was working on his life. Shannon recently became a father.
Dearly, dearly hurts, dearly. I love my cousin, I love my family, and we just trying our best to get through this, and we will. If anyone has any information regarding my cousin Donte's death, can you please contact Racine Police Department anonymously. Any information is helpful.
Now, this is the second police shooting the Racine Police Department has been involved with in the last 10 years. The other one was in July 2014.
Heartache and frustration. That message shared tonight at a public meeting hosted by the mayor of Racine in response to a deadly police shooting. Our Katie Crowther live at Racine City Hall with a closer look. Katie.
Carol, Racine Mayor Corey Mason offered the chance for people to share their questions, concerns, and frustrations as the Department of Justice now investigates the police shooting of Donte Shannon. A community in pain.
I saw his body.
Trust me, this is a sight nobody wanted to see. I'm scared for my kids, man. When is this gonna stop?
According to Racine police, Donte Shannon got out and ran after they pulled him over for a missing license plate. The officers say he pulled out a gun and they shot him in self-defense. Donte's family and the community want proof. They don't trust there will be a fair investigation.
You see the anger and the hurt and the emotion from the people of your city, sir, because it seems like you're only serving one kind of people.
Because it is an open investigation, city leaders did not say much, and that angered the crowd.
You want answers to those questions. I want those answers too. I can't imagine actually the frustration and the sadness and the loss that the Shannon family must feel.
All the while, Donte's 5-year-old daughter was held by family in the front row, not yet fully understanding her dad is never coming home.
When she wake up in the middle of the night and say, I wrote my daddy, none of y'all there, but I am. Her grandma is, her auntie is. She's gonna suffer. You think that's fair to her?
And there is no telling how long the investigation will take.
Now, the Racine police said they pulled his brother over for something about his license plate. And the cops, Chad Stillman and Peter Boeck, said when his brother pulled over, he got out of the car and started running. And the cops said he got out of the car with a gun and pointed it at him 3 times. And they said they told him to drop it. So they said, fearing for their life, they had no other choice but to open fire. Now, witnesses said they heard at least 3 rounds of gunfire, and they shot at him at least 12 to 15 times, and probably more times than that. And even though they shot this brother multiple times already, they claim he was still pointing the gun, so they kept shooting at him, even though he was already on the ground. Now, they said this brother's finger was on the trigger, but he never fired 1 shot. They said he was running away, and he pointed the gun at him 3 times, and even though they shot him already, and they were still shooting at him, and his finger was on the trigger, he never shot back. And of course, there's no body camera, so we're just gonna have to take the cops' word for it.
We want to support the Shannon family in their grief. We also want to support the RPD officers that are involved.
The mayor gave people 3 minutes each to say what was on their minds, and people spoke for almost 3 hours.
There was a gun. Where is the gun?
You don't care. These boys, they're talking about, oh, they're running. Why did they run? They ran because they're tired of being harassed.
I know there's a side to every story, I get that. But I want you and I want all of you to know too that not all white people are white supremacists.
I'm scared for my kids, man. When is this gonna stop? Let's get body cameras for every officer that we pay taxes for his salary.
My son was shot 17 times. We want you to stop it instead of make a difference now.
Sir, as Donte's dad, how did you feel tonight went, this town hall?
As far as the people coming out and representing him, I love everyone.
Well, it's pointless. It's kind of pointless at this point, man. You know, we didn't get no answers from anyone.
The mayor didn't answer any of the crowd's questions, but he said he would bring all those concerns to investigators.
Officials are releasing new details surrounding last week's deadly shooting involving Racine police. Investigators say Donte Shannon was shot by officers during a traffic stop. Brandon Rook joins us now live from Racine City Hall with the new details. Brandon?
Charles, Donte Shannon's family is heartbroken and they are still demanding answers. Details are coming out slowly as both the mayor and police chief addressed the public this morning. Dozens of people from the Racine community filled City Hall to support the Shannon family. Close family members were inside of the mayor's office to listen to the latest details. 26-year-old Donte Shannon was shot and killed last Wednesday by police after investigators say he fled on foot after a traffic stop. While being pursued, the Department of Justice says he had a gun, so they fired shots. Since, there has been many protests in Racine, and Mayor Corey Mason spoke about the Racine community coming together. Police Chief Art Howe urged the public's respect and patience during the investigation.
This has been a challenging week for Racine. There may be tough days ahead, but we will get through this.
I just ask for your patience, ask for your respect as the process moves forward.
Just put on the show, that's it.
You just saw an exchange between Donte Shannon's grandfather and Police Chief Art Howe. Shannon's family was not too thrilled about the lack of information released today. Just before the briefing, we learned the names of the officers who shot Shannon. 15-year veteran investigator Chad Stillman and 16-year officer Peter Boeck. They are both on paid administrative leave.
All of this stuff that doesn't make sense.
I think it was a waste of time, honestly. We don't know exactly what happened, and they still give us like a roundabout statements because this is like tormenting for me and my family.
Police Chief Howe did not take any questions from the media as tensions are high. Shannon's family tells me that he was shot 17 times.
Now, this brother Donte Shannon's dad said he was shot 17 times. The gun they found was registered to his father, but because he was a felon, he couldn't be around any guns, which is probably why he ran. And now the cops are going to investigate themselves. And even though it's been hundreds of years already, they still tell us over and over to have patience. And then they tell us just accept whatever results they give us. And despite all the marches and protests, this cop got his paid vacation. And guess what the verdict was?
Tears and anger from a family after the Racine County District Attorney calls the shooting of Donte Shannon justified.
We're going to fight. We're going to continue to fight.
Now, the family met with the district attorney tonight.
The Wisconsin Department of Justice just released a report saying Donte Shannon had a gun and pointed it at police.
Rebecca Clough live in Racine County with more. Rebecca.
Yeah, Charles and Carol, it was an emotional night here at the Racine County Courthouse. More than a few dozen people showed up here tonight trying to get inside to hear the decision by the district attorney. Only the family was allowed inside. They came out. They were the ones who told us more than an hour later that the shooting of Donte Shannon was ruled justified.
We knew no justice was going to get served. Right. This is how they've been doing this, and they're going to continue to do us this way.
The family of 26-year-old Donte Shannon left the Racine County Courthouse fighting back tears. The district attorney's office says Shannon had a gun, and he pointed it at officers 3 separate times. But his family says they don't believe it.
They said he was laying down with a gun in his hand. You going to tell me that lie? Donte didn't have no gun, because if Donte had a gun, he would have shot back.
According to the Wisconsin Department of Justice investigation, Shannon jumped out of a car and ran during a traffic stop in January. The officers chased him. The DA says they had a dozen witnesses who heard police say stop and to drop his weapon. The DA's office said instead he pointed the gun at police. That's when they fired at least 10 times. The gun they found on Shannon was owned by his dad, nephew Shannon, but had Donte's DNA on it. The family says the gun was in the car, which is owned by his dad, not Donte. The family filed a federal lawsuit against the city and the officers.
They can do whatever they want. And what do we have to fight against it? They see the system is broken.
We're going to fight. We're going to continue to fight.
Now, the officers have been on paid administrative leave since the shooting. Again, no charges are going to be brought against them, and they will be allowed to return to duty.
So this DA, Tricia Hanson, justified this murder, saying these cops are immune from criminal liability in this case because this brother was a direct threat to them. Now, Donte Shannon's family did file a lawsuit, but it was dismissed, even though they plan to refile it again. And of course, these cops, Chad Stillman and Peter Boeck, are right back on the street. Meanwhile, a brother, Daryl Hibbler, made a Facebook post about how these cops need to be punished for their actions. And he was charged with a felony making a terroristic threat on social media. And then they gave him another felony for bail jumping. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's about being dominant. And they're going to make sure they punish us for the smallest thing. We have to understand the situation that we are in. And we have to learn how to defend ourselves. And once we understand we are all we got and get over the illusion of inclusion, we'll be a lot better off. But if we don't, then we'll be in the same situation 100 years from now.
Correctly, because don't even act like that. Pick it up, find it, get down on your knees and find it. Get down on your knees and find it. See that? No count, little nigger. That's how you are. All y'all, no count, fucking niggers. Walk around here acting like something. Film me, fucker. Film me.
We begin with that racist rant directed at a St. Petersburg teen. He was walking home from church with his grandma when he dropped the gum wrapper on the ground. That's when he says the woman started screaming at him And it's all on this viral video that's all over the internet tonight.
Nighttime Joshua Dorado spoke with the boy and his mom. You might be surprised at the message that they have for her.
Don't even act like that. Pick it up.
Would you believe this?
Sit on your knees and find it.
Is the reaction Barry Henry got after throwing a gum wrapper on the ground Sunday in downtown St. Pete.
The lady was just telling me to pick it up real loud and yelling and everything, just going crazy.
The 14-year-old knows it was wrong to litter, but he knows the reaction
Get down on your knees and find it.
was so much worse.
No count, little. That's how you are. All y'all, no count.
I couldn't believe it. Like, I never thought somebody like would ever say that, because it's it's 2019.
Barry's cousin was the one who pulled out his phone and started recording.
First she was like, "You gonna record me?" She stood there and she said, "Okay, I will give you something to record." And then she came, started, coming over there at me, because she was really aggressive.
After that, Barry's sister posted to Facebook, and the rest is viral history. Thousands of comments and even more shares.
I was in shock. I was sad. I was mad. He told me yesterday afternoon, he said, "Mom, I'm actually kind of traumatized." He said, "I didn't know what to do. I almost felt like crying."
Mom says there are some lessons here. She's addressed the littering, but the bigger issue she hopes her kids take away from this is love. And while the internet tries to figure out who this woman is, the family says they're not interested.
It doesn't matter to me. Hopefully he never has to deal with that again, and we will pray for her and hope that she gets the help that she needs, because she does need help.
And she knew she was being recorded. All right, so
She
Joshua
did know.
Dorado is with us right
Yeah.
now. So you said the mom didn't even want the video posted.
No, told her daughter, we don't want any part of this. Let's just move on. It did wind up, though, getting the attention of St. Pete City Councilman Steve Cornell, who actually offered to take the family to the Rays game today.
Oh.
They couldn't because of school, but he is still hoping to honor that teen during an upcoming meeting for how he reacted during that entire confrontation, which was to say nothing, to not aggress anything.
Yeah, it's a good lesson.
He didn't hit your car. Now move your shit out the way. That's ridiculous. I'm not gonna yell. We ain't putting up with this shit. Move! Now, I'm an officer of the state of Kansas for the Department of Revenue, okay? And I'm not putting up with this shit. Now move your car. You cannot block him in. He didn't hit your car. He has not affected you in any way.
I'll tell you this, I don't think he has, I heard he doesn't have a driver's license.
You're not the law.
I know, that's why.
So move and call the police. Report his tag or whatever you need to do, but you cannot block him in.
You know what? That's against the law. This is racist.
I know it is.
This is racist.
And he thinks he's entitled. Now move this fucking car.
Here I am at Dillon's. Here I am at Dillon's. I was over here trying to get this
Go
spot.
ahead and pull up and just back out this way.
You know what? They'll arrest him if the cops come, because this is my fault.
Back out this way.
Yeah, you are. You think that you're from this country, you keep doing that.
Just back up a little bit and then pull up. All you need to do, young man, is say, yes, I told
I don't have to apologize for anything. I was right there. It doesn't matter.
Don't even say nothing else.
You're humiliating
First of all, you're a grown man and this is a child.
Right.
And his parents are not here. He didn't hit his car. All he did was cut him off, and now he's blocking him in, and that's against the law.
Yeah.
You need to move your car.
Thank you for the advice, but I'm not listening to your advice.
I'm not giving you advice. You need to move.
That sounds like advice. What is that?
No, I'm walking by. I'm a grown man. He's a child, and he's a grown man.
Senior citizen.
He's upset because a child cut him off in the parking lot. He didn't hit his car.
I'm upset because I don't care if he was 100 or 2.
Yeah, but
I still think
because he's
that we
black.
can avoid all
That's
this.
why you're doing it.
He can go ahead and
Because
just
he's
apologize.
black.
I want him to
and
be
let's
able to
move
leave.
it on
He
out.
can't make him stay here. What right does he have to make him stay here?
He's doing it, man, because he's black.
I understand that. Let's
Well, I would like to stay here.
drop all that.
If he
As a
was white, you
concerned
think he'd be
citizen.
doing that
Let's
to a white
drop
guy?
all
Yep,
that.
I would.
Hell no.
I'm
not with that.
Well, I watch the TV a lot,
Oh,
and
no.
this happens all the time. Hey, a white woman spit in my face the other day.
I'm right here. I need to get out.
You need to move.
I'm gonna give. Hold on. I'm gonna give you the chance to leave. If you're not going to, I'm just gonna call the cops right now and have you.
And they're going to take my car. What are they going to
Yeah.
do?
Yes. They'll give you a ticket.
Because one, this is private property.
Right.
And
So
he's
we
the
have
owner of
that right.
Dillon's, that's why.
Okay, and all I'm saying is the young man who pulled in front of me and cut me off without a driver's license is.
How do you know he don't have no license?
Because he told these guys he doesn't.
Once again, hold on. Once again, I'm gonna give you a chance. just go ahead and move the car. We'll just move on with our days. If not, I'm just gonna Okay, so
I appreciate it.
And he should
Thank
not
you.
apologize to
so
him.
which
kid.
Right. So kids have the right to break the law.
This is not his parking.
Kids have the right to break the law.
Okay, all right.
Fine with me.
What's your
It's not against the law to cut you off in the parking lot. It's against the law to drive without a license.
You're
not the law.
All right.
I'm just saying.
You're not the police.
I'm just saying.
All right. What's your chore?
Okay. I will be glad to leave.
Okay. Thank you.
And I am heading out of here. And
all right. Let's move on.
I appreciate you guys handling it.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
What, he got a gun up? A taser?
Shoot that man, dog. He got a baby with him, bro. He got a baby with him, bro. Don't shoot that man. Hey, bro, he got a baby with him, bro. Hey, man, you let me off. You let me off. That man got his baby with him, bro. Ain't on my mama, that ain't right. Hey, let him go, man. Hey, let him go, man. He got his son with him, bro. That ain't cool, man. He got his son with him, bro. Hey, bro. No, bro. He got his baby with him, bro. Let that motherfucker go, dog. That shit ain't cool, bro.
That shit lame as fuck. He got a whole
You
baby
lame
in
as
his
fuck
hand.
for that shit, Crip.
Pulled a taser out
On
on him.
Crips, cuz. Nigga, this man, nigga a bitch, cuz. That's some bitch ass shit. Fuck County Brown.
Leave him.
Let him go, bro. Let him go.
What you mean let the fucking baby go?
Man, that's his baby, bro.
Fuck you mean?
Man, let that baby go.
The baby is crying. Let him go.
Hey, we need justice, dog. We need justice, bro.
Get off of that baby.
Oh, God, we need justice. Let that baby go, bro. Y'all on that baby, bro.
That baby is crying. Get off of that baby.
Man, let that baby go. Let that baby go, bro. He got his son with him, dog.
That shit lame
That's
as
fucked
fuck.
up, y'all.
He got a
Bitch
whole
ass.
baby on the ground
Bitch
crying.
ass police.
On the ground
Fuck
crying.
y'all, bitch ass police.
Y'all see
On
that baby?
Crips.
Y'all see that baby?
Got that baby on the ground
Get
like
your
that,
baby
man.
off the ground.
Get that baby off that ground. That shit ain't cool. Fuck y'all, dog.
Exactly.
Fuck
Stop.
Twed.
What the fuck?
Fuck Twed. Man, what's going on, bro? Man, fuck Twed. Man, y'all got that baby on the ground like that?
You think you're helping the situation right now?
That ain't cool. Who is me?
That's fucked up as fuck.
I own a house on this street.
So you think you're helping this situation?
Man, that ain't right y'all doing that man right there, this baby, man. You know what happened?
We was standing right there and they pulled a taser out on him.
Nope. Nope. That ain't cool though, sir.
It's too many police. Y'all lame
That
as
shit
fuck.
ain't right, dog.
Y'all lame as
On
fuck.
Crips, that shit ain't right.
He got a whole baby.
Put the camera on me, I'll
A
tell
whole
they ass.
fucking baby.
Bitch
Y'all
ass
lame as
motherfuckers,
fuck.
dog.
All y'all.
That shit ain't right, bro.
Fuck the police. Y'all lame as fuck.
On me. That shit ain't right. It's big whatever with me. It's big whatever with me, bro. It's big whatever with me. I don't give a fuck about y'all. Work y'all bitch ass.
Y'all, I gotta
Motherfuckers
go.
doing us like
Can't
this,
even
dog.
stay here.
That ain't right.
Y'all see, they got all these police here. But this man standing at the bus stop with his baby. Standing at the bus stop holding his baby.
On me.
And he ran up on him with a taser.
Also, a controversial loitering ordinance in Chester Township. It is at the center of the arrest of 4 members of the same family. The arrest happened earlier this month outside of their own home, and now the family says they're suing. Eyewitness News reporter Howard Monroe is live in Chester Township with the story. Howard.
The family's lawyer says the township's loitering policy was struck down back in 2012. He said that it was too vague. However, he also says that based on these arrests, those policies are still in place.
He just came home.
Keith Briggs arrested, tased, and put in the back of a cop car for loitering. prior to his arrest, his lawyer says he was standing in front of his family's home. He was one of 4 people from the same family arrested in early October for the same charge.
The Chester Township Police Department has failed my family. Instead of protecting us and serving us, they decided to attack us on multiple occasions.
Rachel Briggs was also arrested. This was the 2nd day in a row family members were arrested for loitering. The township statute says that there are areas of the township where loitering is prohibited. In those areas, the statute reads officers can question anyone they believe is loitering and ask them to leave. It's not clear if this neighborhood is one of those areas.
My sister lives here. Which matters? She lives there, not here.
While the family is trying to explain to them their lawful reason for being there, he's busy putting handcuffs on Miss Lewis and directing Mr. Briggs to be arrested.
This is Kenyatta Lewis being arrested. Arrest records show she yelled at her family members to get in the house when officers arrived. Moments later, her cousin, Ramir Briggs, was physically dragged off his family's porch and also arrested.
Who do they think they are to victimize a family like this and do this to someone in this community? Who do they think they are?
I never felt an embarrassment and shame as if I felt that day.
Now, we reached out to the police department several times today. However, we haven't heard back. As for the family, they are now thinking about filing a civil lawsuit. However, first, on October 17th, they'll be in court to answer to these criminal charges.
Old racist tweets written by a UNLV student have recently resurfaced. Turns out the person who posted it is the college's student body president. Thank you for joining us at 11. I'm Brian Loftus.
And I'm Denise Valdez. The question tonight, should she be held accountable for something she wrote some 6 years ago? 8 News Now reporter Shaquila Alvarenga is live at UNLV to explain.
Well, Brian and Denise, we've seen stories like this one pop up across the country before. Social media posts made years ago that question someone's character. This is the tweet that Hannah Patinod is now apologizing for. A person said their belongings were stolen from school. She replies, "You go to a black people's school."
To forgive? Okay, sure. But to forget? No.
It's a frustrating, stereotypical statement that doesn't sit well with many people.
I don't think that she should necessarily resign, but I do think there should be repercussions.
The tweet, along with others, were posted years ago while Patinod was in high school.
I do believe it was at a time where she was old enough to know the difference between right and wrong.
On her Twitter page, Patinod said, "There have been a few tweets that have surfaced from my account that I deeply regret. They don't reflect my views, and I attribute attending UNLV to my growth as a person. My understanding of diversity has changed drastically."
We can't hold everybody to their past, but at the same time, just because you cry and say, "Oh, I didn't mean it," just because you're in the spotlight, how do I actually know that you're actually being for real?
Yeah, I'm 6'3", 250, so I fit the criteria of, you know, what they like to paint as the violent black person or the evil black man. I would hope that over time she's seen that black people shouldn't be generalized in such a way.
I am more than thrilled.
And more than 1,000 people responded to our poll on Facebook, should someone face consequences because of an old tweet? Most people said no.
Penn State has one of the best defenses in college football. The Nittany Lions are allowing 7.4 points per game, the second best mark in the country. And they're led in part by junior safety Jonathan Sutherland, who head coach James Franklin spoke glowingly about.
Jonathan Sutherland is one of the most respected players in our program. He's the ultimate example of what our program is all about. He's a captain. He's a Dean's List honor student. He's confident. He's articulate. He's intelligent. He's thoughtful. He's caring, and he's committed. He's got 2 of the most supportive parents, and I would be so blessed if my daughters would marry someone with his character and integrity one day.
But now Sutherland's name is in the news, not for anything he's done on or off the field, but because of this highly controversial letter he received from a Penn State graduate that many consider to be extremely racist. The graduate called Sutherland's dreadlocks, quote, disgusting, and added, "You will certainly be playing on Sunday in the future, but we have stopped watching the NFL due to the disgusting tattoos, awful hair, and immature antics in the end zone." Penn State coach James Franklin opened his weekly news conference by addressing the letter.
The football that I know and love brings people together and embraces differences. Black, white, brown, Catholic, Jewish, or Muslim, rich or poor, rural or urban, Republican or Democrat, long hair, short hair, no hair. They're all in that locker room together.
And Sutherland posted a statement on Twitter saying, quote, "I've taken no personal offense to it because personally I must respect you as a person before I respect your opinion. At the end of the day, without an apology needed, I forgive this individual because I'm nowhere close to being perfect." And he signed off on that statement by saying, "Don't be scared to be different."
Marriott is apologizing after an African-American family found a racist note that included the N-word in their hotel room in Florida. The family checked into Art Ovation in Sarasota July 4th. An internal investigation revealed a previous guest had left the note, and it wasn't directed at the family. It's not clear why the cleaning crews didn't see and remove the note.
Gallatin County Republican sheriff's candidate in South Carolina opened his campaign by owning up to what he calls his mistakes. His first marriage, a traffic ticket, and wearing blackface. Craig Stivender then shows himself at a law enforcement party 10 years ago, dressed as the founder of a crime ring, wearing makeup and a giant gold necklace. In his campaign video, he says he's not perfect before promising to support gun rights and counteract the threat of illegal immigrants and littering.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the sister Atatiana Jefferson, to the brother Joshua Brown, to the brother Donte Shannon, to the brother Botham John, to all our people who have been unjustly murdered. Until we realize the situation that we are in and respond accordingly, then people are going to feel like they can come in and do whatever they want to us. And they have been able to do that. And it doesn't matter, man, woman, elderly, child. At some point, our children's future, their safety, has to mean enough for us to stand up and do something. We are the generation that's supposed to get us over the hill. We don't have any other choice but to build institutions, to build our own schools to send our children to have people to call in case of emergency, because we can't call on other people to come in and expect them to help us. And if we get over the illusion of inclusion, we'll be able to rebuild our economy. We are the only group of people that pulled ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and we can do it again. But this time we have to protect what we build, because at the end of the day, we are all we got. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.